Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. LR here with Benji, presented by Zwift always, and their newly released Zwift Hub. I'm coming to you at the crack of dawn. Benji's had a busy work day as well, so that's why I sound like I am, because there was the Tour de France Grand Dèpart. We're going to mix Italian, French, and English, which is basically that is I just speak one Romance language, Spanglish, French, and Italian, and just that's how we work. They
Giro
released
di
the
Francia.
exactly that's per Giro de Francia. I like that. They released the 2024 Grand Départ on yesterday, and we weren't expecting it, so this is a little bit late, I guess, as a reaction pod. But very early, over 18 months before, starting in Italy, 3 stages, we got the profiles, and they're not just cookie cutter boring profiles either. That's particularly why I wanted to do this podcast. And there's also an interesting discussion about this race doesn't finish in Paris. It's the Olympics year. It finishes in Nice. This is coming across the border after stage 3 near Nice. So a lot of questions about this route, including why is Italy, and more importantly, rich Italian cities, they're some of the engine rooms of Italy, paying for Tour de France Grande Partenza. It's sort of interesting to think about. But Benji, I said you were busy. What were you doing today? Why am I up so early?
Why are you up so early? Well, I had a media thing in Belgium. Had to talk to like the main commentator of Sporza, or one of the main commentators of Sporza, for an interview in a cycling magazine. So that's basically the story. But I prefer talking about this Tour de France parkour because there's actually quite a few things to see about it. To be honest, because these 3 stages, you said it, it's not the most traditional start of a Grand Tour, but on the other end, it does apply to similar riders that the Grand Départs of the Tour de France has applied to in recent days, I would dare to say. Because let's go back in time for a second. We had 2021, which had the Van der Poel, Muur de Bretagne, London, Noah Philippe stages, and so forth. 2022 started off with the time trial but flat stage, so that's the generic old school start of a Grand Tour. But then this year, Basque Country 2023, we are looking at a parkour that starts for the punchers once again. So once again, the Van der Poels, Alaphilippes of this world, the Wout van Aerts, the Binyams of this world. And now we look at the 2024 parkour, and we see that the first stage is a crazy one. Like, I don't know how to classify that yet. I need to figure that one out. I need like months to figure that one out. But the second stage is definitely for the puncher, the third stage for the sprinters. But how about we go into each one of them in depthly, right?
Yeah, let's do that, because as Benji said, I didn't know they did multiple international starts in a row. They're going Denmark, Basque Country, Italy, and they're kind of being cheeky
I know the
because
rule.
there's no transitions stage after stage 3 because they're border countries. It's allowed.
It's non-adjacent countries that need to be X amount of years in between.
Okay.
Adjacent countries to the original country of the Grand Tour are allowed. So that's why Basque Country and Italy are allowed, because they're literally next to it after Denmark, which was non-adjacent.
No. And so what? Belgium, Germany, Switzerland would all be allowed to, and maybe
Technically, yes.
Luxembourg. Okay, understood. Before we get into the profiles, just to mention Zwift Hub, if you're looking for a late Christmas present purchase, the best price trainer on the market from $499 US, it will get you on Zwift training with a direct drive trainer which simulates altitude changes, tracks your power with good accuracy, the most well priced trainer on the market, available in the US, UK, and Europe. No sweat setup, delivered straight to your door, comes with everything you need to get Zwifting in no time, color coded, tutorials, easy to read manual, no terrible IKEA experience. On your Sunday, if this comes, you'll be up and running in no time. So if you want to get into Zwift, dive in, go to Zwift.com and check out the Zwift Hub It's a market game changer, in my opinion. Okay, stage 1, starting in Florence, it goes up to Rimini, I think a little bit along the coast. It is fucking hard. Like, I don't remember a Tour de France stage 1 being this hard. I know the Basque Country stage, yeah, it has the Côte de Piquet at the end this year in stage 1, but that's more like stage 2 of 2024's Grand Départ. This has an 11k 5.7% climb in the first 50k's, and then has another 5 categorized climbs, which aren't like normally you see like a collection of 2 kilometers at 4% or 3 kilometers at 5% max. And, there's something for some guys to sprint for the KOM. These are like 7Ks, 5%, 5Ks, 8%. This is a genuine medium mountain stage. If it was
Yeah.
in week 2, I'd say break. It's 206Ks. It's a flat finish. The last 16Ks are downhill or flat. The last climb 7Ks, 5%. How does this sort of stage play out, Benji, as stage 1, where it's not an obvious break stage?
I think we might be able to look at, for example, 2020 for a second, which in the Tour de France had that second stage, which included the Col de Turini, if I remember right, with 2 times Col d'Ez. I'm not 100% certain in there as well. That was also a really difficult start when it comes to the Grand Départ of a Grand Tour, but this is a bit different because you've got once. First of all, they're shorter climbs. We're talking about those 6 kilometer, 7% climbs, 7% for 7 kilometer climbs. And having those back to back to back to back to back every single time makes this also kind of an attrition kind of thing. Obviously, it's not completely like that. It's not 270 kilometers, but still over the 200-kilometer mark. I would say that how does this play out for GC? Because GC riders that aren't necessarily the GC kings of the world, they might be intrigued by a potential yellow jersey at the finish line. But on paper, if you look at this, then a Pogacar is fighting for it. Then the likes of who Pogacar seems to be the favorite for the stage if it comes down to the peloton. But
Stage
can an
1.
Alaphilippe get over stage 1? Can a Van der Poel or Wout van Aert get over stage 1? Wout van Aert should be able to.
Yeah. Van der Poel, I think, has the ability to as well. These are still pretty draft-heavy climbs. Like UAE do have the team to explode this. Like Ulisi, I know it's in 18 months, so he's a bit older, but Ulisi, Almeida, Formolo types, they have a lot of those, right? McNulty on these sort of climbs can do big numbers, and it's stage 1.
Bilbao.
Yeah.
He's the kind of
Descent.
rider that gets over these. Descents he can also do well, but he's also got that kick from a group. And I'm really looking for those riders, the riders you see in the likes of a Basque Country and Catalonia, those stages that are harder throughout the parkour, but still have a small group at the finish line, like 10, 15 riders at the finish line. That's what I'm kind of looking for if we're looking at a peloton thing here. Or are we looking at a larger peloton because it's day 1?
I don't think it'll be as selective, just because that last climb still, quick maths, 26Ks from the finish. It's
Yeah.
only 5%. I know it's up and down all day. I think Wout van Aert's going to be the heavy favourite for the stage, because Benoit should get over those as well. I think it'll be bigger. I think people will come back because say a group goes right, quite selective, 15 guys,
Remco
unless
Solo.
Remco Solos, well, he will be here, hopefully.
Exactly.
Unless he has to keep, maybe they'll start him when he's 28. He'll be here. Will he go solo? I don't think he will. That meant they'll be like slowly with the strategy. They won't want to do anything like that because, if he drops in later weeks, then people will say he went out too hard. He won't. I don't think he'll attack here. Could you have a satellite rider? Will other teams let that happen in the first 50Ks? If UAE try to get Soler up the road, Soler could win this from the break. Break is possible because it's going to be hard to control the break.
Yeah.
Like, all day, who's going to take responsibility? Jumbo. Probably we looked at to do it. Like, will It's not like Denmark where all the sprint teams like Lotto and Quickstep had to help them because they had no choice. Like, will Alpecin help them on this stage? Will
Hmm,
UAE? Maybe. But yeah, it could be difficult to control, and maybe the break does win with a Magnus Cort, Marc
possible.
Soler. Like, do you really want to blow your team up to, I don't know, if you're trying to win green and yellow? Probably because you should, because yellow jersey's on offer. But I think the break does have a chance.
Could we see a break, a GC rider already lose time on stage like this? Because it's hard enough to be able to have like one guy that has a bad day and already fall through the cracks in some shape or form. We're talking about losing a minute, losing 2 minutes. That can happen on stage like this, especially in the first week of a Grand Tour. So there's also the danger that way. Now, I think there's also abilities in this parkour to go for moves with like 40k out on that Côte de Saint Leo. But the problem is because it's stage one, I'm not expecting that. If this is towards the end of week two, start of week three, in week three somewhere, then we could see a raid on parkour like this. It's that difficult on the third last and second last climb that there's stuff like that possible. But on day one, I doubt anyone's gonna risk that except perhaps Remco. And it wouldn't shock me if Remco's crazy enough with the yellow on offer, his first day at the Tour de France, to try and at least one attack somewhere to try and go long. Because
I'd
this
love to see
parkour
it.
is the parkour where he could actually pull it off.
I think, I mean, this has got to be 3,500 meters elevation, 206 Ks, one of the hardest opening stages. And, maybe we don't get fireworks, but yeah, it does give something to someone like Remco or Pogacar to work with. Ultimately, I think it will end up being a larger group, maybe
Yeah.
25, 30, maybe even bigger. Um, and I
Hater?
think, well, I mean, yeah, maybe like theoretically, right? Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't he theoretically win stage one or be top three of stage one of the tour this year? But
I'm
like
not
he
sure about
should.
this year, but 2024, I think it might be because I think it's harder in 2024 than in 2023, and he might lose more punchers on that 2024 parkour.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, positioning, will he go Pidcock GC? I don't know. But I think it will ultimately be a larger group. And the question is more whether Jumbo can keep Pedersen behind, is what
Yep.
I'm thinking. This is quite similar to the Dauphiné. If I have to look at that Dauphiné stage that Wout beat Hayter in
Hmm.
this year, I think that was a little bit harder, or maybe like every Dauphiné stage was just so hard. Paul Groenewegen had to do that. And oh, Wout won two stages. That's not very helpful. That was 200 Ks. Nah, it had like one climb. Anyway, I think probably Jumbo will be happy with that stage opener. Stage two from Cesenatico, where it's the hometown of Pantani, up to Bologna. So, I mean, we got some good. We might have to do a food tour, Benji. Florence, Bologna, Turin. Like, whew, this is
My
the
orders: pasta bolognese, pasta bolognese, pasta bolognese. I'm a
okay.
basic bitch. I'm
But
sorry.
in Bologna, they don't do a spaghetti. It's
Ooh,
with like tortellini is better. Don't
that's
worry. In
fine.
Bologna, the food in Bologna is fuck so good. It's cracked. This is a flat start, I think, from Cesenatico, so they're not doing the Carpegna climb like they did in Tirreno. That'd be a bit mental on stage two. Not as much elevation gain, 200 Ks again. And they do the famous San Luca climb. They have a couple of 1,300 meter 10% climbs earlier in the stage, but the last third of the stage is a couple of circuits of that famous San Luca climb. With, as Benji's told me, he's checked, it's not the same as Giro dell'Emilia circuit, where they do the descent straight into the climb again. This has 10Ks of flat between, including 10Ks of flat off the bottom. I would have liked this to finish on top of San Luca. I think that would have been
Mhm.
crazy. The fans would have been like mental. It would have been Van der Poel against Alaphilippe. It would have been Murder Britannia again. I would have liked that rather than, but do you think still someone can go away on top of that climb and hold it, because then there's the little ridge for 3Ks, then the descent for 10Ks plus flat. I think that's tough. It's not that hard a stage.
I think it's especially tough because of the plateau section on top. Of plateau section, we're talking about a small descent going into a 1 kilometer 5% climb on top of the Bologna San Luca climb already. So we're talking about a space on that climb where the tempo for riders, if like 3 riders get away, they might start looking at each other on top. And that's when it becomes a problem for them because people behind will try and get back to them. Now, on the other end, if they are gone, then they might be able to keep that going while others are struggling mentally behind, 10 seconds behind, for example. That gap might increase a bit before they go into the descent. But for me, this reminds me mostly of that stage in the Tour de Suisse 2021 where Mathieu van der Poel ended up winning. I think Wout Poels was really strong in that stage as well with the Lichtstrasse climb. I think that was 2.4 kilometers at 8.3%. This is 2 kilometers at 9.7%. I think this is a very similar scenario where people are going to be waiting for that last Bologna to try and hammer the shit out of it. And then on top, it's going to be Van der Poel trying to hold on to the punchers like an Alaphilippe will try and go very early on that climb. The likes of, well, the thing is, if Remco Evenepoel is leader here, will Alaphilippe be going from the bottom?
Well, that's the big question, yeah. Or they could play the 1-2. Like, they should bring both, and they should be able to find a strategy that works.
Yeah.
Like, what you don't do is have, if Alaphilippe goes and he's with Pog and he's got a 50% chance of winning the sprint, he works with Pog. I don't think that's a great idea. But and I'm not saying Alaphilippe would. I think he was a great teammate for Remco in the Vuelta until he crashed. But yeah, they could find a way for that to work. Again, it's steeper, so whilst shorter than stage 1, the gradient really matters here in riders getting separation. I think this is right on the limit for Van der Poel.
Yeah.
And Tour de Suisse didn't have Pog.
Well, he was also on the limit there. He was also on the limit on the climb. And it was the descent that kept him on. And then afterwards, he was able to still manage to ride away.
And it did have Alaphilippe, right? It did have him? Yeah, it did.
I think yes, because David
really
was
chop
there.
Matthews. So. But there was no Poggy. There was no Wout. There was no Roglic. I think I actually don't know what will happen here. It's really a lot of options. No break. They'll get brought back. Pidcock?
Very much possible. These 2 stages are Pidcock worthy.
The descent is really Pidcock, right? And someone will work with him, and he can beat them in the sprint. I think Pidcock's a really good chance here, and that's sort of the hater point. It's like, you got to be in for Pidcock here. I don't know. This has many options. Someone attacks on the climb, stays away. A small group of 3 attack on the climb, they stay away. That group finesses, they get caught by a group of maybe 10, 12 behind, and then someone sprints. Nothing happens. Break wins. Or maybe a group, again, Jumbo-Visma. Well, can Wout attack on this climb? Like, do Jumbo just do the Calais train and just fucking launch this climb?
I'd have to look at
through the arch, right? When you turn left.
On paper, it is. I'd have to look at the in-depth feeling of the climb itself, the running towards the climb, whether there's possibilities there. If it's like super straightforward, then no. But on paper, I think it's not super straightforward into the bottom of the climb. So I think there's a possibility for that indeed. But now that they've done it in Calais, now that they've done it in Paris-Nice, at some point the competition will have to say, well, maybe this should work for us, or maybe we should actually notice that this is possible. Because this is a stage where it's pretty obvious that punchers are going to try and do something on that climb. So positioning will be key at the bottom. While in the Calais stage, a lot of teams were not finding it very obvious, and we're still considering the stage to be a sprint compared to this stage where it's more obvious that it's going to be for the punchers.
Before they turned right, when at the coast in Calais, it was all the sprinters teams pacing. Jumbo weren't doing anything. Oh, maybe they were, but with Nath and Van Hooydonk. But yeah, maybe Machin goes up to Vergaard Stekeling and he's like, listen, Vergaard, I know they got Wout and Van Hooijdonk and Laporte and Van Baarle and Benoit, but we got you, and I'm going to need you to do 30k pull before this climb, and then keep Poggy in good position. The thing is, you're right. If you're Poggy, you just sit on Jumbo train. Like, that's the answer.
Why are we not mentioning Ayuso for any of these two stages?
True. As the biggest Ayuso stan in the world, that's pretty remiss of me. Probably because it's so far away. I forgot how far away it is that he'll be actually able to do this race and be the favourite for it, obviously, after he's won the Vuelta this year. In 23, he'll win the Vuelta. Yeah, like, he's got a mean sprint for a GC guy like Pog. And this could be the first. I think Pog might not be here, Benji. I think Pog is Giro 2024.
Yeah.
So I think he might not be here. I think it's
That's true.
Ayuso time. Don't you reckon? He's flirting with the Giro.
Yeah.
And he always does an Italian schedule outside of the Tour. Tirreno, Lombardia, Strada this year. I think he wants to do the Giro.
I think so as well. Depends on whether the sponsor allows him to do that. Because while he does probably have a solid opinion there, I think it's still the money that will count in that aspect. Now, Binyam's also a name that I want to write down.
If Ayuso's good enough, it helps that.
That's true.
Because they can send Ayuso TDF.
Yeah, but Binyam I'd write down for the Bologna stage as well.
For sure.
Knowing that he can get over that climb and he can finish it off at the end. So I'm going to wing it. I'm going to...
Thought. This is Laguelia, is it not?
Yes.
2K, 8 to 10%, technical-ish fast Italian descent on a circuit, and then there's actual flat. So it's not like Emilia, it's like Laguelia, which is the race Baby Benny was really good at in 2020 when everyone just ignored his existence when he was on Nippo. Okay, it's a little different, but the point is Benny, Baby Benny. Fuck, he was good on Delco. Yeah, that's a great call. He should be able to get around this. I don't think he can go with the premium punchers if they send it on San Luca, though. And I also worry about positioning.
In 2024, he might. We need to keep in mind that there's potential growth between now and riders, and some riders might be able to grow in those next year and a half towards this. So, by all means, there might be a new puncher. Like, Axel Laurence might have become like the new Alaphilippe at that point, which I doubt, but...
Gregoire.
Romain Gregoire might be there. You're not wrong.
I expect him to be.
Yeah.
Like,
no
maybe
Lenny Martinez
falls off.
Punching away?
It's tough, when
Yeah.
It's tough. Maybe learning on stage one. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see glorious FDJ train for Gregoire. That would be sick. I'm getting excited. That's a great parkour, isn't it? Like, no offense to the Denmark start, but it was
the bridge, man. The bridge. Come on.
The bridge is right inside behind the scenes. We were planning on going to the Danish Grand Dèpart, but then we just got so overworked. We went to the Giro, and then the agent drive. Can't do it because the Tour de France is busy enough for us as it is. And then the plan would have been to make like a video, and my video would have been the title on YouTube, the bridge that will change the Tour de France 2022. I was gonna have drone shots. I was gonna ride across it. I was gonna be like, this bridge, right? Crosswind's gonna come across. It's gonna be pinned, and it's gonna explode the race. This bridge, you've never seen anything like it, right? Imagine if I'd done that video, and then they get to the bridge, and they're just like, across it. I mean, there was a crash, and Guerrero and they fell off the edge, but fucking hell. So, yeah, that wouldn't have long run views, I don't think. Anyway, what we haven't mentioned for these first two stages is KOM, which will be, because I'm reminded of Court targeting KOM, which will be fiercely contested. Like, there's going to be a mega battle. Let's say they're categorized on stage one. Sorry to go back to it. That climb is a Cat 2. That's a fair chunk of points. That's not a Cat 4. There's going to be a mean battle in the breakaway for guys going for KOM on that stage. But anyway, stage 3 is not that. It has 3 categorized climbs. They'll all be Cat 3s. or 4. No, sorry, they'll all be Cat 4s, except maybe the last one, Cat 3. It's from Piacenza to Torino. It's a sprint stage. The longest climb is 2.4 k's, 5.2%. 50 k's from the finish. Then it's a flat finish. So it'll be finishing in an Italian city. Some technical stuff, I would assume. Sagan will love it. 3Ks over 200Ks, a 230K stage to finish in Turin. It's just a pure sprint stage, Benji, really.
Yeah, I think so as well. I haven't looked in depthly at the last few kilometers, as in whether there's like roundabouts, whether there's like a slide uphill towards the finish line. We'll get that closer towards we move towards this Grand Tour. But we also got to keep in mind there's a lot gonna be changed by this point in the lives of the cycling. We've got the factor that you might see a Sheffield at the start of this, the likes of a Turner at the start of this. Quinn Simmons might have actually become a rider that doesn't only fight for Tirreno KOM points. So there's going to be so much change between here and then that
Koi could be on Intermarché.
DSM.
Yeah, Koi could be on. Yeah, exactly. So
He
much.
should be.
Wow. Can't wait. Ooh, I love cycling. I'm getting excited.
We must do the Giro, mate.
Oh, this year. Oh, 23. Or next in 24.
2023.
Yeah, Jumbo just announced it. Pretty close to the Giro with Wilco, probably as his domestique. And then I assume Bowman, who won 2 stages, will go. I haven't watched the Prezzo yet. It was overnight, as I said, very early. I'm committed to the grind. Likes and reviews of the pod appreciated for pre-Christmas grind. Yeah, Roglic to the Giro. Will Jumbo win all 3 Grand Tours or 0 Grand Tours? It's boom or bust, isn't it?
We can talk about it on the Jumbo Visma preview that we still haven't done, so should be coming soon. But I will already give the spoiler that I agree. If he doesn't win that Giro, Jesus Christ, his GC fight is going to be seen as useless.
Well, I think he should do the Tour.
I think so too. But we talk about it next time.
Because I think he can win it. I already said it. Like my tweet after the route reaction reveal, that wasn't a joke. Like I think he can win it. And if you want to win the Tour, you gotta start. That's why I did all the consultancy work this year. I was like, listen, if you want to win the race with this rider, he has to complete all the stages with the lowest amount of cumulative time.
This is why people listen to our podcast. It's like the next level analysis. Like if you want to win the race, you gotta cross the start line first.
Exactly. Okay, so that was the first 3 stages. I'm obviously quite excited by it. I'm also excited for the Basque Country stages. The interesting part of this is the Tour de France finishes in Nice because of the Olympics in Paris in 2024, and the last stage will be a time trial, not a cakewalk or ceremonial stage in Paris. That time trial, I assume, will be quite hilly because they will not just be on the coast, so it will have a few hills in it.
Col d'Aise.
That's not the point. Col d'Aise, exactly, Col d'Aise, but that's not the point. Nice is like the closest city in France to Turin, except for maybe Lyon. But you cross the border from Turin, there won't be any need for a transition day. Near Nice. So where do they go from there? Because they're coming back there to finish. Do they go north through the Alps immediately for stage 4, 5, and 6? Like, what are they doing? Or do they go left, sort of circumvent the Alps, then come back through Alsace-Lorraine? They like to go to Alsace-Lorraine like every year for Planche de Belfi or something like that, right? They always seem to maybe pay. Like, how do they manage that? Is the Tour going to go? Is the Tour going to skip the north of France again for a second year running? Like, surely they can't.
Wouldn't be shocking. It wouldn't be shocking if they skipped the north of France, in my opinion, because it hasn't necessarily been in every single Tour de France anyway. So they skip it quite a few times in their history, but I think there's many options to where they can go from that area. Now, my geography is not perfect, but I'm pretty sure that you're in Nice. You can either go to the Alps, you can go to the Pyrenees if you want. It's also relatively close. Or you can go like to Massif Central, that area. I don't know if that's called Massif Central, but like the thing between Pyrenees and the Alps, like to the the left top on the map. They
You
can also go
could.
there, but they go to the Alps in week 1 of the Tour de France 2023. Will they repeat that already in 2024? It's an option.
Yeah, but then they tend to make it soft because they don't want to blow the race apart, which I don't like that. Then do they do like the long? You can do long transition stages from like Montpellier to Toulouse region. There's plenty of
Yeah.
flat there, some rolling climbs, so maybe they can do that. And then maybe they're going to finish not near Nice, and then they'll have the big transfer before stage 21. But that's normally the big transfers, normally before the final sprint stage. Like it's a sprint stage in Rome in Giro next year, right? It's not a TT, and they have the big transfer, and then normally it's the big transfer. Well, it wasn't even that big from an Australian's perspective, from Rocamadour to Paris this year in the Tour de France. I was like 4.5 hours, no problem. After the rise, probably didn't feel that way, but I don't know. It'll be really interesting where they go. Why is the Giro? What? Sorry, not Giro. Why are Italian cities, prestigious ones too, Florence, Turin, Bologna, international names, paying for a Tour de France Grand Départ, Benji? Is this a slap in the face of the Giro? And this would have been decided years ago, by the way. This wasn't like last 6 months. These Grand Départs are years in the negotiation, big money involved. Probably start talking 2018 or 2019. Why are these cities getting a Grand Départ when they already have the Giro in their own country?
Isn't it simply that the Tour de France is such a significant race, much bigger, eclipsing the Giro multiple times? And for that reason, that they're intrigued by that, next to having Giros in the past, because Bologna's done a Giro in 2019, so it's not even that long ago that it started in Bologna. So Bologna has worked with RCS before. So I think because they've worked with RCS and they continue to work with RCS most likely, RCS probably won't feel like they just got slapped in the face by Bologna. But some other cities might perhaps have pissed in the mouths of RCS, for example. But I don't know.
Because that's money from the tourism board or the local government, not
Yeah,
going to RCS essentially for a Grand Départ there. And yeah, interesting, the sort of dynamics or politics of pro cycling. But yeah, Tour de France remains king for better or worse.
yeah.
For the sport. I'll be interested to see where the Tour de France Femmes starts actually in 2024. I wonder when they'll announce that. Whether they'll start, like, when will they be able to sell, which will be good for the race. When will they be able to sell an international Grand Départ for the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift?
In Japan.
That'd kind of be sick. Or in the
It would be
US.
amazing because there's actually a proper cycling culture, but
Yeah.
the transitioning
Bit of a
week has to be
transfer,
exist
yeah.
then. Like in between stage 2 and 3, there's like a week
Bit of a transfer.
for the jet lag.
Anyway, this start looks really good. I'm in favor of it. We'll probably be battered with pure sprint stages in, stages 4 to 8, but that's what you get. I'm excited to see some new punchers against some old
Wait,
punchers, against some reduced
no.
sprinters on these stages.
We're going to have an extra sprint stage in the third week before the final time trial now because the time trial is on stage 21. We're going to have like
Yeah,
stage 17
two
and 19
transition
flat or
stages, yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Oh.
It is what it is. Anyway, let us know what you think about it. Do you like it starting in Italy? We thought we'd do a quick reaction pod. I enjoyed it. Thanks for all your support this year. We've got the Q&A pod coming, UAE and Jumbo previews, holding them over the special ones before TDU, and we'll see you in the next one. Ciao.